What about your bets on commodities, your long positions, especially on gold? There's more and more talk of a potential gold bubble. I know you're pretty bullish when it comes to that precious metal. Are you still, given the record high we've seen in gold in the last few days?
Well, I'm not buying gold. I don't like to buy anything at an all-time high. I'm not selling. Gold is going to go on for quite a long time. There will be a bubble in gold in the end, but that may be 2019. That's a ways away. Certainly most bull markets, long-term bull markets, end in hysteria and in bubbles. We will have that in gold someday down the road. I mean, if I had to buy a precious metal, I'd rather buy one of the depressed ones like silver or palladium or something, but I'm not selling my gold under any circumstances.
Would you be a buyer of copper right now? It just seems to have both of those, the value of gold in terms of the hard, literally hard investment, and then also the utility side to it.
Well, I would prefer to buy silver just because, silver is nearly 70% below its all-time high, Poppy. That's awfully depressed. So if I had to buy a metal, I would urge your viewers to think about silver. They think about all the metals or all the commodities, but of the precious metals, I think I would prefer silver only because it's so depressed.
What about outside of the euro? What are you buying now?
I'm not buying much of anything. I'm watching these days. If I were buying something, our agricultural commodities are still extremely depressed. Sugar is still 70% below its all-time high, and its all-time high was in 1974. So you can see this is really a depressed market, and there's several commodity markets that are that depressed.
I want to talk about sugar. At a sugar conference recently, you basically said that this commodity could go on a tear in the next decade. What has you so bullish on sugar, Jim?
Well, the main thing is that more and more people are using sugar as fuel, which is a huge new source of demand.
We talked about Brazil running a lot of their country off of sugar-based ethanol.
Yes, definitely, and the Brazilians are getting better and better at it, and other people are trying to copy them, the Chinese, the Indians, and others with huge populations. And of course, as nations become more prosperous, they like sweets. Nothing unusual about that. It's been going on for a few thousand years. You don't have to be some kind of genius to know that. And so there's more demand coming for sugar, and there's not much scope, Poppy, for increased production, not dramatic increased production anyway.
They like sweets and they like meat as their cultures become more affluent, that's for sure. What about oil? Given the BP disaster, I want your take on big oil in general and then BP specifically.
Well, what's happening as a result of this horrible tragedy is that there's less offshore drilling. The U.S. has said we're not going to have any offshore drilling, and they've stopped what was in process. Other countries are now thinking about regulating it more and more, or even controlling it more and more. Poppy, it's a simple fact. Less drilling, less oil. Less oil means higher prices. If you may remember that 6 months ago, or even 3 months ago, Mr. Obama was saying we're going to start drilling offshore because we desperately need more oil. America needs more oil. Well, now if we desperately needed oil 3 months ago, we certainly desperately need it now, and there's going to be even less drilling than there was, and that means that over the longer term, the known supplies of oil are going to continue to decline. I don't know what's going to happen next week or next quarter, but over the next decade, the oil's got to go a lot higher.
What about BP specifically? You've been shying away from equities as of late. BP right now, are you a buyer? Are you waiting for it to, if it goes down further?
No, I'm just watching. There's no reason for me anyway to jump in. There are plenty of brave people who can jump in and maybe even scalp something, but I'm not one of them. I have no idea. I don't know what's going on in the bottom of the ocean. I know that whatever the government says, whatever BP says, they're all spinning it to make themselves look better. I'm just sitting and waiting. In my experience, it is great to buy something when there's a disaster, but in my experience also, there's usually plenty of time. Even after the disaster comes to an end, there's usually time to buy into the problem. So I'm just watching.
And Jim, what's not getting enough attention right now as an investment that you think should be getting more attention? Maybe you're not a buyer of it right now, but you're looking at it.
Well, we're going to have more currency problems. We're going to have serious currency problems over the next few years, or next few months, probably several months for that matter. I would urge people to learn about currencies. Most people don't know that the shift in the value of the dollar or other currencies can have dramatic effects on their lives, but they can, and one can make dramatic profits if one gets it right. This is very important for everybody's life, much more important than the stock market. I mentioned agriculture before. Agricultural commodities are a great place to invest. These are places where I would be looking if I were an investor.